Strange to hear, but so true to note that there has been an upsurge in racism attacks in Tunisia. Many persons are asking the question as to how possible for this to happen by Africans on African soil. So many reports have come out of Tunisia by black Africans reporting cases of robbery, violent assaults, attacks, and so many very despicable situations on Cameroonians, Ivorians, and a host of other Africans who have been living in this nation. Things came to a head after a speech that was delivered by Tunisia's president on the 21st of February 2023, in which he said that there was a plan to change the demographic structure of Tunisia and instructed that all illegal blacks living within that country should be sent packing. This gave opportunities for those who before now have been nursing hatreds against black Africans to swing into action, attacking, looting, and some landlords even asking some black Africans renting in their houses out of their respective homes. We are going to be looking at this today with someone who masters how Africa operates very well and has been a strong proponent for African unity. How do we explain this situation in 2023 within the African soil, especially from North Africa, knowing that former Libyan guide was a strong advocate for African unity? Good evening and welcome to Prime Hour on My Media Prime. This evening we are going to be exploring this situation with Apostle Ambe Valentine, who is our permanent consultant. Good evening, Apostle. We're glad to have you.
Yes, Mr. Leo, good evening, and sad on this speech that we are here to discuss about the maltreatment of fellow Africans on their own soil. If Africans can be harassed, intimidated, maltreated in their own land, I wonder where they will find true freedom. We used to say home is the only place you can enjoy freedom, you can enjoy all the pleasures, but unfortunately, Africa has become a hunting ground for Africans. And we keep asking this question, is everybody in the north, the Maghreb, are they Africans or they are strangers who are inhabiting the land of Africa? We shall be discussing this evening, and we're going to give a lot of analysis as far as this topic is concerned. From there you understand why the Maghreb, except Libya in the past, have always treated Africans like strangers.
Yes, the question I'll start because we have listened to so many Africans tell very nasty stories of how they have been treated since that statement that was made by Tunisian president on the 21st of February this year, though some measures, they came later to try to play firefighting measures that have been described by so many quarters as largely insufficient because of the far-reaching effects of that declaration that day. We also listen to some Tunisians who are saying that their nation has been invaded by Africans. So many of them, Maghrebians, describing you and I, our brothers and sisters living within the African continent, as having been invaded by Africans. How do we explain that Africans are describing other Africans as Africans? Isn't this strange, Apostle?
Mr. Leo, that would be even a better statement from the Maghrebians. Let's begin from South Africa.
Okay. No, we are going to go to Equatorial Guinea.
Yes.
I don't know how.
You know, we have said that in times past. Martin Luther said, "I want an America where my children will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character." I can tell you this skin color is a serious challenge in the world at large.
Okay.
Let me begin with a story in Argentina. Have you ever asked why there is no black in the Argentina national team? Have you ever asked why no black has ever ruled Argentina? Have you ever asked why Argentina, being a South American country that was a leftover ground for slaves who left America and other countries, how did Argentina manage to be a purely white country in an environment where all its surrounding has blacks? Brazil has blacks, Uruguay has blacks, Costa Rica has blacks, Peru has blacks, Bolivia has blacks. Then you find out that Argentina doesn't have blacks in their country, even though they fall within the South American states.
Yes.
This is because I'm giving this background story for us to make us understand why it's happening in North Africa. When he said, the president said they want to change the demography of the state, it's a very, very strong statement. Categorically speaking, you realize that the president that came in Argentina at that period said they cannot live with blacks in the same place. The crime they had was that they were blacks, not because they were not competent. So what did they do? They devised a strategy on eliminating all the blacks in South America. They sent only the blacks to the war that was in South America in those days in Argentina. The blacks were killed. Almost 4 million of them were killed. And the few of them who were not killed, they began giving them harsh treatment in such a way that they had to pack out of Argentina. That's the reason why Argentina is predominantly a white nation, even though black settlers came there. And during that war, they maltreated the blacks and the blacks left. I think they believe that black Africa is poorer than any other African. The Maghrebs, talking about Egypt, Morocco, Algeria, Libya, Tunisia, these are countries that do not first of all consider themselves as Africans. On several occasions, the Moroccan king has attempted to join EU. The opportunity was not given him because he does not consider himself as a black country. He doesn't consider a country, as a black country. Egypt participates only in football and sports tournaments. Egypt is not in the EU. Egypt does not participate in other African activities except in sports. That is to say, they have carved a niche for themselves, considering the fact that they are not Africans. They appeared on the African soil by error. And African actually mean to them man with a dark skin. So for them to have light skin to be called Africa is an abuse to their identity. And that's the reason why when blacks, the black skinned man, goes to an environment like that, he's first of all looked upon as a stranger. The same way Europeans look at us because of the color of our skin is the same way those Maghrebians look at us. They are privileged to have been born whites, some of them. Some of them have white skin, I mean most of them. Now you will go in their midst, first and foremost you appear strange in their midst. Coming to the per capita income, coming to the financial stability and the gross domestic product, those countries are higher than ours. The Egyptian pounds is high. The Libyan dinar is higher. So when they rate their standard of living, because if you go to Morocco, Morocco is beautiful. Morocco, there are places in Morocco you think is Europe. If you go to the Moroccan airport, it's like Cameroon airport 5 times. When they ascertain their infrastructure, they ascertain their gross domestic product, they ascertain their currency, they ascertain their color, then they look at you who comes from a place where finances is a challenge, your color is a distant one, your infrastructure does not match up with them. Even in our common society, Mr. Lugo, we are today, there is a gap between the have and the have not. Within us in Cameroon here, there are people, because of their status, they can't interact with others.
Yes.
That's natural. It is but obvious that nations also that are highly situated cannot also interact with certain nations that does not match up with them. That's the reason why you will not see them chase Europeans out of their country. You will not see them chase for other Maghrebians in their country, but they will chase the black skin because from every standard we do not match. It will shock you that they may do those things and never touch South Africans there, because South Africans have come to a place in domestic and national growth that if the Tunisians look at them, they will see that they are their mates. So I think this thing has to do with class. Okay. It has to do with structure. It has to do with development.
It has to do with class, but we understand that violent assaults, robberies, vandalism, arbitrary detention, all of this, eviction and a host of others came after this declaration on the 21st of February by Tunisian's president, in which he said that he described the situation the fact that our brothers and sisters are coming in there. He described it as a criminal enterprise hatched at the beginning of this century to change the demographic composition of Tunisia. This is a president saying this. How do we explain and understand that a president that is supposed to prone unity, prone African integration, who also understands the dynamics of how the world that is now becoming a global village works, say such?
I think 3 things are in place here. First, religion.
Okay.
Tunisia is predominantly a Muslim nation. The infiltration of other people in that country will adulterate their religion. And you know the Muslims will do everything possible to preserve their religion. Now, ask me if the blacks intruding that country are not also Muslims.
Yeah, but we have we have the United Arab Emirates.
Of course.
And we have so many blacks there.
There are countries that have taken certain religions to certain dimensions. Like in Iran, there is no church in Iran. Iran is a Muslim nation, but there are churches in Dubai, while Dubai is a Muslim nation. It depends on who is the leader. We are talking about the leader here.
Yes.
The leader here predominantly is trying to carve out a particular structure for his country. The infiltration of these people, first and foremost, for religious reasons. They will say these people are going to introduce a strange religion that will adulterate or contaminate their religion in their country. So fighting that demography has to do, first of all, with religious reasons. Number 2, Tunisia is not a country that has enough jobs. These individuals coming to their country will even cut off the level of employment, because these individuals coming to the country will infiltrate certain areas that were supposed to be occupied by Tunisians. There is something with talent and gift. There is no way you will see a talent that is far more better than yours and you don't use it. So the infiltration of these blacks in their country is going to cause congestion, it's going to cause employment challenges. The third thing is that blacks also, when they enter some countries, like Cameroonians, Nigerians, Liberians, they carry a lot of atrocious acts. The criminal offenses that blacks commit in certain places also provoke those people. We don't know underneath why he made that statement, but there are some certain things that must have been done by the blacks in that country that has provoked him to say, okay, my people have never done this, why we're just us. Now that these blacks have come into our country, we now experience rape, we now experience adultery. People are sleeping with people's wives, why our religion did not permit our people to commit adultery. Such a thing they must have sat down in a council and then made a decision, okay, the only way we have to do is to carry out ethnic cleansing. We have to clear off these infiltrators who have come to pollute, 1, our religion, number 2, to puncture our employment rate, number 3, to increase criminal acts and offenses in the country. I think that statement is born out of a strategic meeting that was held after critically studying the activities of the blacks in that country.
So the statement of a demographic agenda was just used as
it's just a cover-up. It's a cover-up.
Okay.
It's a cover-up, because how do you adjust the demography of a country by chasing people away? It doesn't make any sense. Like I gave the testimony of Argentina. That's how Argentina was able to annihilate all the blacks out of Argentina. When wars came, they sent only the blacks to war. They were killed millions of them. Then the few that remained were given harsh treatment. They had to escape to places like Brazil, Chile, Peru, Bolivia. So there is no black man in Argentina. If they go there now, it's for probably visit or for other things. But an Argentina who is a black is difficult to find, because they took out a strategy to kick out all the blacks existing. And I think that something must have shifted in
but how do we understand what is happening in Tunisia, that a president is in power because of the Arab Spring?
Yes.
Without this, maybe Ben Ali will still be president. And then Africans...
Ben Ali is Algeria.
No. Ben Ali was in Tunisia. He was in Tunisia.
Yes.
Yes. And then it is Bouteflika who was in Algeria forever.
Bouteflika.
Yes, Ben Ali was there. But let us imagine that this was, we saw Africans gave their blessing to what was described as the Arab Spring, because they felt in solidarity with what these people lived under leadership described by many as dictatorial.
Of course.
Only for these leaders now to get to power and now say, these guys, they're Africans. They're not our brothers.
Okay. Do you realize that Ben Ali had no demography mentality in kicking out the blacks from their country? That tells you that this man who is in power now had this philosophy all along.
I was looking for the opportunity.
I was looking for the opportunity. So when the Arab Spring came, he just swindled himself and then rose now to power to execute. It's like me and you, we are crying now in Cameroon about so many things, but we are not in position to carry out certain decisions. Something may occur and I will rise up tomorrow and I choose to say, all Ghanaians, go back to your country. That idea was not born when I came to power. I've been nursing it, but I didn't have the opportunity to execute it.
Yeah, but is it not betraying that African support they had during when they were looking for ways to topple Ben Ali?
Mr. Liu, are you talking about betrayal? Who has not betrayed another in this continent? People are looking for opportunity to climb to where they will sit and carry out their dreams and their visions and their desires. You have given him a right hand of fellowship, and he has risen to where he's supposed to rise, and now he's treating you with all kinds. The blacks don't support Donald Trump. Blacks supported Donald Trump. But when Trump came to power, blacks in America said they made the highest racist in their life. Blacks supported Trump and they even voted him to power. So most of these guys will never disclose their agenda when they have not been given the opportunity to rule.
Okay. This equation of Arab nations identifying themselves more as Muslim nations than African countries, how do we explain it? Is it just simply because of the
color of their skin?
The color of their skin, or more of religion?
It's more of religion.
Okay.
You know, the movement of Islamism started in Western Sudan. Othman Dan Fodio carried out jihads, different kinds of religious wars to establish Islamism. And most of the places that Christians came there very late were places like the north of Africa, where the Islamic drive had consumed most of those countries. From Libya to Tunisia to Algeria to Egypt, you realize that predominantly a greater portion of their population are Muslims. This is because missionaries were not sent into these areas very fast. The Islamic drive had taken most of this environment. So Christianity is being introduced in a very, very, very minimal capacity in these places. So they have been consumed with Islamism to the extent that it now becomes a particular, like a national religion. To some extent that when you are a Christian, you are considered an alien in that land. Go to Egypt, you have the president there is a Muslim. You go to Morocco, the king is a Muslim. As a matter of fact, the biggest mosque in Africa is built by King Hassan of Morocco. It can accommodate 20,000 Islamic worshippers at a blow. Yeah, it tells you the level of Islamism in that nation.
Apostle, if you feel that it is because of religion that they feel more of Maghrebians, we have West African, black West African nations that are predominantly Muslim states. Why don't they also think that there are more of a Muslim state?
Religion is one of the factors.
Yes.
That is making them feel superior to other African states.
Yes, but Senegal is predominantly Muslim,
of course.
Niger, Mali, and a host of others.
Yes.
But these guys are Muslim nations.
They are Muslim nations.
They are Malians who are also chased out of Tunisia.
Oh, that's why I was coming Muslims, on that.
Yes.
I was coming on to say, are you trying to tell me that those who are Muslims who identify with their religion are not chased away? They are.
Yeah, so
they are chased away. That's why I say Islamism, or the fact that you are not a Muslim, is not the only reason why. There is a kind of way they look at the black skinned man. The black skinned man is considered an inferior personality in the midst of anyone that has white skin. This is because the white man has given the impression that the black man is a low standard species of human being. They classify the black man as somebody who has nothing to offer mentally, has nothing to offer technologically, and has nothing to offer economically. So coming to their country, they see you more as beggars, as people who are coming to depend on their country, not coming to contribute in their country. Because everywhere the blacks go, they always go to collect and bring back. They don't go to invest in that area. You see this Simaf company that is in Cameroon here is owned by who? Moroccans. They came here to invest. How many blacks have gone to invest in Egypt? How many have gone to invest in Morocco? Have gone to Tunisia? If they can leave Morocco to come and invest in Mafia, they consider themselves as Europeans coming here also to invest. That's the mindset they have. Who has left the black continent, the black African skin, to go to Tunisia and say, okay, hey, I want to establish a refinery here? It tells you that they are considering themselves far more better than us in terms of economic standards. That's why I say it is not just religious differences that is bringing this problem. there's economic standard because their way of living. Most of them have flown to African countries here. They come to our countries, we don't have good roads, we don't have good buildings, we don't even have hotels. You heard that the last time the Moroccans came here for Chan, they insulted the hotel that was here, that they lodged into. Now, with such a mindset, when they carry back home, how do they rate us? We live in a competitive world. We live in a world that this man associates with you based on your standard and your class. So when they visit us, the same environments, they know that we are not their match. You are coming to do what? Nobody wants to welcome a pauper in his house to come and consume. Everyone wants somebody that's coming to contribute and to add value. That's what I'm trying to make you understand. Now, are there blacks playing football in Algeria? Yes. Are there blacks playing football in Tunisia? Yes. Why do they accept them? They're coming to invest. They are coming to give their talent. They're coming to give their skill. That is the reason why I'm telling you that if we don't match up, we are going to be disdained, discarded, relegated. This is a challenge to African presidents to understand they have to top up their game in order to make their citizens feel relevant and necessary when they enter into other countries.
Now, is Tunisia and other North African countries also taken aback, struggling to grapple with their internal affairs and also to containing the unending influx of migrants who are leaving this part of Africa, seeking to cross over to Europe, but who may end up spending 5-10 years there? So every day they are receiving these guys.
If the Italians, the French, who are more developed than the Tunisians, the Algerians, and the Moroccans, are not accepting migrants from coming to their country, what do you expect a Tunisian who is not of the standard of the Frenchman? So you're telling me that a middle-class man will accommodate somebody that a first-class individual cannot accommodate? As a matter of fact, they believe that this movement of blacks from the black African, let's put it, the black African sector, the black skin sector, let me put it that way, there are people who were destined to go to Europe. Europe has rejected them. Then they come and settle there in their country. So I think the idea of fighting them from coming is the same thing that France is doing. We hear that people appear in the beach of Sicily after crossing the Mediterranean Sea. They are being chased. Some are thrown in the river because why? Italians don't want them in their country. The same with France. The same with other countries in Europe. Now the influx of blacks in their country automatically affects so many things. There is no way people walk into your country without coming with crime, without coming with their religion, without coming with their attitude, without coming with certain infiltrations. So because of that, I think they believe that the infiltration of these people in their country is going to affect so many things and change the perspective of their citizens in their country.
Okay, it's going to change this situation, but Africans themselves, we are helpless. They have to keep going, even with all of what is happening out there. We've seen Ivory Coast get their guys back home. We saw Guinea.
Yes.
And some for Gabon also has done same.
Yes.
What could be the core motivator for Africans to see the hell that they are exposed to, possible hell that they're exposed to, going through these Maghrebian nations? Because even going across the Mediterranean Sea is not guaranteed, and it's not too sure. You may spend so many years. People see brothers suffering across the Sahara, even before even getting to Tunisia. Yet, as we speak, I'm sure there are many who are planning to leave Douala, Abomena, and other parts back to Tunisia or Morocco and Algeria, Libya.
People easily forget the fear of death when the event has passed. Most of us have seen accidents at the Yaoundé Douala road, but we still enter buses every day. We will cry that, hey, once the thing passes, the thought of it disappears. There are people also who have succeeded on that path.
Okay.
And when they come back home, they give their testimony how they passed through that way. Somebody will be thinking of someone's success and never thinking of the fact that somebody died while using that way. I want to see this from a political point of view. I think this Italians and the French and the other countries who do not want blacks in their country anymore must have signed an accord with these Tunisian presidents and other presidents in order not to allow those blacks to go through, because if they are blocked, they will stay in their country. From every indication, most of them who attempted crossing to Europe, when they met a place like Tunisia, saw how comfortable it is, and they realized that the currency is a bit high, they choose to settle there. So the idea of going to Europe instead exposed them to see another greener pasture in Tunisia. And now when they settle there, they realize that if they don't start reacting, these guys who may come to their country and choose to settle there, because the idea of going to Europe again is no longer in view. They have met Tunisia. They are okay. The guy who was here once who told us that he walked through the desert and other places to go to Europe, he spoke us that the currency of Egypt is very high. He told us that the Algerian currency is very high. That if you're having 1,000 Algerian dinar, you may have at least 30,000 here or some 25,000. Who will live here from Cameroon and go to Algeria? He owes 1,000, that is reading 30,000 here and want to cross again. He has fallen in his own bush. There are many Cameroonians, and then good enough Algerians speak French. So when they speak French, they go there, they need to communicate. If somebody goes there and realizes he cannot cross, he cannot come back, because the frustration of coming back is worse than staying in Nigeria or in Tunisia to make life from there. So there are persons, I know persons who live in Nigeria, they have never gone into Europe, they have gone and settled there. Now, when people infiltrate in your country, there are certain opportunities that the people of that land can never get anymore. That's the reason why you see people are being chased away from Equatorial Guinea, they are chased away from South Africa. To me, it's not an abuse. To me, it's a call to the president and the leadership of each country to not make your home comfortable. Your children will not become strangers in another man's land.
Okay. Make yourself comfortable. What is your reading of the reaction so far of the African Union?
Mr. Leo, you know, I've held a very strong view concerning the African Union as a toothless bulldog, and I will keep saying this because the African Union is not convincing Africans that it's working for Africans. Lately, there was a negotiation with Israel struggling to have a permanent seat in the AU again, and they tried to lobby some African countries to make sure they have their way to have a permanent seat in the AU. What is Israel doing in AU? What is a bicycle doing in a petrol station? Does bicycle use fuel? How does Israel having a seat in AU contribute in advancing the cause of Africa? Then, shocking enough, Tunisia, a country in Africa that's supposed to be under the umbrella of the AU, is maltreating other African countries. Are they telling us that the forces that are in Ivory Coast, Cameroon, Gabon, Equatorial Guinea, Guinea-Conakry, Mali are not strong enough under the banner of the AU to invade Tunisia and bring it on its knees? Have they even served a letter to summon the Tunisian president in the AU Court of Justice to see how they can be able to judge the case why Africans are being maltreated in their own land? Where have you ever seen a European suffering? One of the things I've realized with EU is that EU strengthens countries that have no money. There are many European countries that have no money. Croatia is a poor country. All these Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Turkey, they are poor countries. But the issue is those who have finances help to strengthen those who are weak. Not the case in Africa. AU has never defended any African country. Europeans will enter here to maltreat us. Let us say AU was afraid of the sophisticated weapons of America and Russia and France. Are they afraid also of what Tunisia has? Does Tunisia have such might and stability to face AU? That means AU has been reduced to the extent that even Tunisia, an African country, can maltreat Africans and the AU sitting quiet. What is the AU? Is it a photograph on a wall? Is it a television that is being remote controlled from somewhere else? What contact does Tunisia have with America and Europe that is causing EU not to confront it?
But now, if EU has been silent, what has been the reaction of other heads of states from nations that are black-skinned? For example, the Guinean, we have Cameroonians, we have the Gabonese, we have Malians. Have you heard their presidents actually speak out because of the reluctance of the EU, of the AU? I know that AU issued a statement against what is happening in Tunisia.
That's what they have been doing. They are good at making
statement. But what has happened? What have we gotten from, say, CEMAC presidents,
ECOWAS presidents,
because
SADC presidents, EAU presidents? Well, to begin with, some countries have reacted
because their nationals are directly concerned.
Yes, some countries.
It is true that they have sent planes to fly their citizens home, but sending that strong message against Tunisia, we've not had them.
Like I said, this thing is more than what we see.
Okay.
More than what the eye sees. I'm very sure they are talking from the background. They don't want to cause any spark among themselves. They must have related some issues with the president of Tunisia from the background. that they should talk, because I think that diplomatically speaking, we don't just come on space and speak. They begin to negotiate things from behind. If it doesn't go well, that's when it spills now to the public. Let's wait and see how the days go ahead. If the Tunisian president does not comply with the calls from the background, because I know very well that the presidents of certain countries will not fold their arms and sit. They need to secure their mandate. They need to secure their offices. They need to stay in power. And if such things happen, you as the head of state in that country, you don't get up and react, it makes no sense. But I think they will not react foolishly. They will react in due process. Number one, they may start negotiating from behind, talking gradually. They will not speak, because speaking rudely publicly endangers equal the life of the citizens in that country. If tomorrow for instance, Cameroonian president and say, Tunisian President Ben Ali, you are an idiot, you are a fool, you are this and that, you are martyring my people, it will endanger the lives of Cameroonians who are in that country. The president will be comfortable sitting in his military palace. Meanwhile, the people in the country are facing the wrath of the Tunisians. So I think wisdom is demanded for us to manage issues like that. Presidents are not foolish to just get up like some quarter people who are just excited to come and speak and shout. I think some negotiations are going from at the background, but let's see how the days unfold.
Okay, I'll read these are the following accounts of 3 black African foreign nationals in Tunisia, Human Rights Watch interview. This one says, a 20-year-old Malian studying international trade has been in Tunisia since September 2020. On March the 1st, while on his way home from his first day of an internship in the center of Tunis, a man pulled out a razor blade and tried to slash him, yelling racist slurs and telling him to go back to his country. The student tried to defend himself, but still ended up with cuts on his neck and chest. He went to a police station with a dean of his school, who acted as an interpreter to report the attack. The officers asked him what happened, handed him a transcript in Arabic with no relevant information on it, and told him to go to the hospital. He said, between February 21st and March 1st, he had only left his dormitory once to buy groceries because he felt he was in danger. On February 27, a 17-year-old Cameroonian who is a UNHCR registered asylum seeker was evicted from his apartment in Ariana, north of the capital, even though he had paid his rent the day before. The same night, a group of men, apparently Tunisians, assaulted him and his roommates in the street with a knife and sticks, threw rocks at him, robbed him. They were chanting, "Kill the blacks," in French, which he understood. He said the assailants stole his phone and cash. He displayed an open wound on his Achilles tendon, bruises on his thigh, and slashes on the right sleeves and the back of his jacket, which he said were made by an assailant's knife. Police watched the assault and did not intervene, he said. When he spoke to Human Rights Watch, he had been sleeping on a piece of cardboard in front of the Tunis office of the International Organization of Migration since his eviction. He said that he fled the war in his country after all the members of his family were killed. Okay? A woman from Ivory Coast who has 5-month-old twins has been in Tunisia since 2017 and holds a valid residency card. Early in February, she opened a beauty salon in the Sidi Amor neighborhood north of the capital. She said the proprietor who had leased her the salon later reneged on their agreement, claiming the police had said blacks cannot own a business. The next morning, on February the 24th, she found the proprietor with 6 other men on the site destroying equipment and furniture with an axe. On February the 25th, her landlord evicted her from her apartment in Rhodes, telling her to go back home. She and her children have since been relying on friends for shelter. Yes, this is also the situation and what is happening out there. The president makes a statement, and this is what the citizens are doing on fellow blacks.
A few things you have to take from the report from the Human Rights Watch. First and foremost, the police is aware.
Yes.
And it's not reacting. That tells you that the orders coming down for the people to react is far beyond the police's control. That tells you that it is something carved out and planned. The second thing you must consider there is that the people who were attacked established businesses.
Yes.
He said blacks should not own businesses. To them, blacks have come to take their market, to take over their market. That's the same thing happening in South Africa, where Nigerians will have shop, they will invade those shops, burn those shops, destroy items in those shops because they believe that Nigerians have come and taken their market. The third thing you have to understand is that those people, if you look at it, they were surely on their way to Europe. From 2017, they realized that they couldn't cross the Mediterranean Sea. Life was better in Tunisia. They settled there. And she has given birth to twins. And she is settling there. And she has opened a beauty house. Now, how do you explain this? That these people believe that strangers are coming to their country to establish businesses, to take over control over their market, to influence activity in their country. Besides, their country was just like a passage. Now it has become a home. If they don't fight this in the next 10 to 20 years, how many blacks going to Europe, passing through Tunisia, will choose to settle in Tunisia? Very soon you will realize that the number of population of black people in Tunisia is more than the Tunisians themselves. You see, the Egyptians, the Israelites came into Egypt. They increased in number that you could not count the Egyptians. He said the people called Israelite overshadowed the land because they were building and multiplying and giving birth to children until you could not be able to know whether who is an Egyptian and who is an Israelite. That is exactly what happens. The Tunisians could be swallowed if this thing persists like this consistently for so many years. Because I can't be aiming for the moon, then I see the star, I don't sit there. If I don't get the moon, I'll settle at the stars. The pains that most of them took to leave this country, to go to Europe, only to live at Tunisia and found out that Tunisia is far more better than the country they left. Why wouldn't they settle there? So I think they are fighting something not for now. They are fighting something for the future. This thing has repeatedly occurred in their country and they are trying to put an end to it.
Yes, but many persons are seeing this as a regression in Tunisia's democracy, because they were fighting for an Arab Spring to get a better country, but rather described by so many observers across the globe as regressing from where they were before now.
I think what the president is doing is what Omar Bongo used to say, Gabon d'abord. Gabon d'abord. That means Gabon first. That's what Donald Trump used to say, Americans first.
Yeah.
Now Tunisians are saying Tunisians first. It may not be good from the international community and the global point of view, but I can tell you Tunisians themselves are considering this individual as the best president they've ever had. Any president that protects, fights, and defends the interests of his people is celebrated by his people. Go to Tunisia before you will know that the report from outsiders does not count. Go to Tunisia before you will know that the child in the street is considering this man as an answer prayer.
Yes, but we had protests in Tunisia against what the president did.
Yes, there are political distractions in every country that will also take this as an advantage to discredit the president. Who doesn't want to sit on the throne? The president used the Arab Spring to rise. So somebody is seeing a window that he can pass through also to discredit the president. There was a time that a few poros in South and Rwanda that they used a situation in order to spring up in Rwanda. So political opponents in the country will always use opportunities that come up to discredit. No president rises to power by error. They take advantage of situations and they find their way to the top.
Okay.
Do you know how many politicians have used Anglophone crisis to find their way to the top? They are insignificant Anglophone politicians who were nowhere to be found. But because of Anglophone crisis, they have mounted. So this Anglophone crisis has given so many people employment unconsciously. So the rising of the blacks' cry inside Tunisia is a platform for another political opponent to cease to rise to power.
To gain relevance.
Yes.
Okay.
Don't you know that when Putin started war against Ukraine, there were some Russians that protest? 40,000 Russians protest that they don't want what Putin is doing. Do you think because they love it, some political opponents kicked off and stirred up their people to stand up and kick against Russia and Putin? So that's it. So when you say me that some Tunisians are protesting, how many of them protested? That's the first thing you have to understand. How many people are in Tunisia, the population, and how many protested? When you will know that people are protesting against something is when almost 500,000 of that population is standing against it. Not up to 1/10 of Tunisian population rose up against what the president said.
Okay. Now, away from Tunisia, we are talking about racism.
Yes.
On African soil.
Yes.
Perpetrated by Tunisians who predominantly are white-skinned.
Yes.
They are Maghrebians. We have seen Africans being maltreated in
Guinea.
In Equatorial Guinea next
South
door.
Africa.
We've seen that also happen in
South
Gabon. These are our neighbors.
Yes.
How do we explain it? Because even if our brothers are illegal, but the methods of asking them out of this nation doesn't reflect a treatment that should be meted on a people by their brothers.
First and foremost, everybody feels comfortable in their houses. You and I are in our personal houses. The moment strangers come to the extent that our children can no longer feed, I'm talking about you and I here sitting. Strangers come to our house that our children can no longer feed. The first thing we'll start doing is that people will live for now. A case like Guinea Equatorial, the story wasn't like that in the beginning. When there was oil in Guinea Equatorial, most blacks flocked into the country. There was no problem because the money was sufficient. Now the oil has been completely drained out of that country. The citizens don't have money anymore. So who are they going to first of all remove to have peace in their country? They will remove the strangers first, so that what they have at hand can be able to feed them and their families. That's the reason why the fight against blacks in Guinea Equatorial did not suddenly start in the past. It is recently. The blacks have been there for almost about 10, 20 years. I know of a man who has lived in Guinea Equatorial for 15 years doing business there. But he said it is recently that they began complaining because why? The food that is in the house can no longer satisfy even the members of the family. So the first thing they have to do is to reduce strangers so that they can be able to have enough to eat. There are most business places occupied by Cameroonians, Nigerians in Guinea, Equatorial Guinea. These people now can no longer do business again because the places that were supposed to be have been occupied. They are now forced to send. I know of a lady, she's in my church. She used to be a pharmacist in Guinea Equatorial. She said her landlord told her that she has to kick off because they don't have food to eat. They have to use that place to do the same pharmacy business. So they now have to take over that place to feed themselves. Strangers were given the chance to stay there because there was enough for everybody. Now there was no food. Bible says when there was no food in Egypt, they began thinking of sending away all the Jews out of their country. It happens everywhere. It's not today. It's an old Bible principle.
Yeah, but can we use that same theory or line of thoughts as you developed there to explain what is also happening in South Africa?
Yes.
Even when you don't have capacity to do what you are chasing people out from the nation of doing.
Now, I want you to understand the case of South Africa. It's the impression we have that they cannot do.
Okay.
Until you leave, before you know they can do or they cannot do. South Africans believe that they have suffered a lot during the apartheid, and Mandela brought them freedom. Now it's time for them to enjoy their country. When it's time for them to enjoy their country, strangers came into the country and almost occupied every opportunity. What is the difference between apartheid and after Mandela? Because we are not feeling the impact of the country. When the Indians and the English, they are chasing by the Malians, the Guineans, the Cameroonians, the Gabonese. Why? The Senegalese, the Ivorians. Why? It is to tell you that there is first of all this bad faith amongst us black people. We have an attitude that we don't celebrate or admire our own. There is a fight against the black skin themselves. So we are just reaping from outside. That's what we have in the house. I used to say racism is global tribalism. It's tribalism at a global stage.
Yeah.
So if we start tribalism in the house, just like in Cameroon here, the political system in this country is tribalistic. That thing now that we carry extends outside. It is now called racism. Because racism is discrimination against a kind, while tribalism is discrimination within a kind. That's simple. Discrimination against a kind is racism. Discrimination within a kind is tribalism. So what we have at home, when we carry outside, it follows us.
Then we externalize it.
Yes.
Okay.
It will shock you
we plant
that
it and then we rip it.
We rip it outside. It will shock that when Nigerian man opens a shop in South Africa, he employs Nigerians in South Africa. You don't get it. If a Cameroonian opens a beauty shop in South Africa, he employs Cameroonians in South Africa. We give you our land, you create the jobs. You cannot even make us employees. That's the level of greed that we carry from our country
but
to outside.
Are we competent? Should you give it to people who may not necessarily be competent in doing what is required?
You and I know that we don't employ competence. We employ tribe. We employ family. We employ connection. Because if it is competence, then you and I know how Singapore grew. If we apply the principle that grew us Singapore, we'll grow in Cameroon. So
meritocracy, yeah.
Competence is not part of the procedures which we used to employ here. We employ based on tribes. Even if you are not competent, even if you are not qualified, even if you are not efficient, we employ you. We carry that attitude outside. Now, let's consider the fact that a South African is not able to do hair. Why would a Cameroonian in South Africa not train a South African how to do hair and employ her? Why don't you make it look like we are not just here to grasp your income and go with it? We are also here to build you. That is the problem. You go to a country like South Africa. If you see a Nigerian man that has a shop there, it's only Nigerians are employed in that shop. So you tell us that you give you our land, you create the job, yet also you cannot employ us.
Okay, I want to get...
we bring guys from the village to come and work in our shops who are not competent. They will tell a South African man you are not competent. The person you employ is not competent.
Let me get this contribution from G. Lucas. You may have to react to it if need be. Good evening, Mr. Kum. The decision of the president of Tunisia is an eye-opener to other leaders of the continent. The happenings down south and other parts of Africa is seen by the leader of Tunisia as a threat. What the president said is not a lie per day. The AU, on its part, has been a failure to the continent. We cannot expect the African Union to call Tunisia to order because most leaders of other parts of Africa are not better than what the Tunisian leader is doing. The president of Tunisia says his country is under some attack. I think that is a call for us to recognize the AU. Okay, the AU is also made up of African nations. We may not be exemplary to what the Tunisian leader is.
Of course. That's what we're saying here. That you can't teach people what you feel to do. The African countries that constitute the AU, they are not role models. They are not exemplary. They don't have a path they have charted that others can follow. What will Obiangema tell the Tunisian president? What will South African president tell the Tunisian president? What will Gabonese president tell? Because they are all part of the same crime.
Okay, the people are there because they failed in making the nations
comfortable. That's why I said that if at all these countries that migrate out of their own nation were comfortable in their countries, because the Tunisian will ask you, how many of them have you seen in your country? They will ask you. It's because they made their country comfortable outside their power, not traveling. If you made yours, to me, this is a clarion call for everybody to go back home and fix the mess in their country. Sending planes to go and carry them in is not enough. Because after taking them from that country, they will start looking whether to go to Asia, or to go to Europe, or to go to America, or to go to Canada. The issue is bring these guys back home and make life comfortable in this country. When this man came to power, Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo, he introduced a principle called Return Ghana. We used to have all those people who were going about sewing dresses in time. They were Ghanaians who were, they are no longer there because Ghana is making their country comfortable. There are syndicates in Ghana that you cannot work in Ghana until you are Ghanaian.
Okay.
It is absolutely impossible to head an organization in Ghana without a Ghanaian. There is Hyundai in Ghana headed by a Ghanaian. Hyundai can only send an associate to support him. There is no way you can pastor a church in Ghana as a head without putting a Ghanaian there. There is no way. The syndicates put in place. You cannot work as a welder in Ghana until you are part of Ghanaian syndicate. I mean, they must check where you are coming from. Whether you are from the Bro and Hafo region, or from Tamale, or from Kumasi, or from Accra, or from Takoradi. They will check you. If you are not from those places, they see you as a stranger. They cannot bring you to the syndicate. That gives people a stability in their country. They can easily go back home because why? Any job that comes, Ghanaians first. Ghanaians have not said Ghanaian double. But if you go there, the principal that work there puts Ghanaians first. Come to Cameroon here. Who are the people working here? Strangers are coming. Filipinos are doing welding work in Cameroon, where we have trained welders in this country who do not have a syndicate that gives them a voice. You see, they import people from Nigeria to come and work in rigs in Cameroon. From Angola, they come and work here. Cameroon has efficient welders, yet there is no strong syndicate that gives Cameroonians first place. We have to come back home and clean the mess.
Okay, we have to come back home and clean the mess. Mr. Liu, I have been a silent listener to your programs for quite a while, but today's program has pushed me to react. In fact, Prophet Ambe is our God sent. I hope our president and his administration give a listening ear to your programs. I'm Ebenezer, writing from Kupe Mwanenguba Division. Good evening to you, Ebenezer. I'm glad to read from you. Mr. Liu, what Apostle is saying is right. All the European countries are backed up by the rich countries in Europe. Justice is writing from the United Arab Emirates, okay, Dubai to be precise. Good evening, Mr. Liu and Apostle Ambe. I enjoy your discussion and the analysis of Apostle, but I beg to differ with Apostle when he gives religion Islam as one of the reasons for what the Tunisians are doing to the black Africans, because such is not a teaching of Islam as a religion and goes clearly against the teaching of Islam. Not only non-Muslims are targeted, but all black Africans, no matter the religion. I think whatever reason they might have for such racist actions is unjustifiable, and Islam is definitely not one of those reasons. I'm really ashamed of what is happening to Africans in Africa by Africans. What are we going to say when this comes from Europeans or Americans? This is Games writing from Ndu. Apostle Ambe said one of the reasons why they see themselves more as migrate or as I don't know.
As dark-skinned Africans.
Yes, it's also that religion also contributes, but not the lone factor. Good evening, sir. With regards to South Africa, those people are unemployable. They are lazy and uncultured. Workers pretend to be ill 4 times a week and expect to be paid in full. Okay, what? Wow, okay, maybe this person is somebody who has experience. What is the police support them in almost every situation, even when their citizens are on the run? I run a small business in South Africa. And I'm talking from experience. Okay, thank you. This one says, good evening, Mr. Liu. At the mention of Apostle Ambe, there is a flow of knowledge. Kudos to your team. Lista Montana is writing from Yaoundé. Lista, good evening and say hello to mommy watching from Yaoundé somewhere there. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I wish to thank Apostle Ambe for speaking my mind. The government of Cameroon is not helping. It's when they spend money to bring back citizens. Let's make the country comfortable for Cameroonians and no money will be spent to repatriate fees. Okay? Nsomo Caleb is writing from Fundong. Caleb, good evening to you. Apostle, let me take this one last and then, oops, very long message. Mr. Liu, how dare you throw the blame on innocent Africans be they of the black skin for the hardship and the smart treatment that that's being meted on them by the Tunisians? Please, you should be more serious on your programs. Bring real experts to enlighten the public on the topical issues you handle on your program. Mr. Mba, as usual, is not very, okay, does not have a mastery of the issues. Okay? We cannot be blaming Africans for racism is never based on any rational thought. It is mostly born of ignorance, fear of unknown, but most especially it is always a political gamut to lure and manipulate the ignorant masses so as to acquire power or a false sense of superiority. Gabon first or America first does in any way means the ill treatment of other nationals. America first simply means the government is principally and essentially for the Americans. I don't know whether you are blaming those who are maltreated. You are saying that we should make our nations comfortable. Yeah.
Yes. You see, like I said, and I'm still saying it, nobody is comfortable. I repeat, when you come to his own environment that cannot even satisfy him. Some things don't just happen. These things happen to call us back to a place of hard work, making your house comfortable. I think if at all these challenges coming to our brothers in other countries, it's only a sign that our environment is not comfortable for them to have packed out of this country to go out. If you look at it critically, most of them did not go there just to study. You hear a woman has been in Tunisia since 2017 and opened a beauty salon there. That's to let you understand that she went to look for a means of livelihood. Now, we are in Africa, and we claim to be third world countries in Africa. A third world country is going to look for livelihood in another third world country. That tells you that something is wrong with another third world country. There may be sometimes that other one is a fourth world country that a third world is going to look for food from the third world. We are not telling you that people are justified for carrying out racism. Never. Racism is condemned in all quarters, whether in Europe, America, or anywhere. The truth is, we are trying to say, if our people had a comfortable nation, they will not move to a place like Tunisia. How many Tunisians have you seen in these black skin African territories? How many of them have you seen? If they are not coming here to invest, Moroccans have come to Cameroon. They came with CIMAF company to invest. They did not come here as people to look for mega jobs. They didn't come here to do layabout jobs. They didn't come here to work like slaves. They came here as investors. And when somebody comes and invests in a country, there's another picture about that personality. Tell me how many Tunisians are roaming the streets of Cameroon as Cameroonians and Guineans and Gabonese are roaming the streets of Tunisia. How many Egyptians are in this country? How many Algerians are in this country roaming the streets? The fact that you move into their territory automatically makes you inferior in their eyes, because you are going to be doing the menial jobs that they cannot do. The fight now is sometimes what they have in the house is not comfortable for them, and that's the reason why they begin to react against you. Not because anybody is endorsing or supporting racism. It is not accepted anywhere on earth. I think we should clarify things before we talk. And talking about experts, if you are one, we need you on the station here.
Okay, good evening, Mr. Liu. Elvis writing from my 4. Pastor Ambe use these medias and tell the youth especially to make their country better. There are the ones that are not all figured people in government. They will never do that. Okay? Pastor, you are very frank. You speak the truth, and please let's register and vote and make the change that we want. Okay. Good evening to you. I am Bo Walters writing from Melon. I am so not happy with Apostle addresses what is happening in Tunisia and Ukraine. God help us. God has not permitted discrimination in any form. Okay. Good evening in the house. What I have to say about the matter is that we black lack self-value. E.g., we have resources in our countries, but we allow whites to exploit them, and then we tend to go back to them to survive. This is Alexis Brice writing from Betois in the East region. Apostle, now let's look at Semak region.
Yes.
This is a route where many are not only maltreated in Tunisia, like what we are seeing today, many are dying in the seas.
Of course.
Many are dying in the deserts.
Desert, yeah.
Do you think the AU or the structures in Africa have done enough even to prevent this movement? Because we are not talking about maltreatment that we are receiving from an African nation. But what about this movement, this massive movement of persons from sub-Saharan African nations towards the North African nations, and with the hope of crossing the Mediterranean? Are there any moves made at all that you know of to keep Africans back home?
No, Mr. Liu. I think when it comes to that, they will tell that every nation is sovereign. The AU does not have right to step in the Cameroon and decide if Cameroonians have to travel or not. It doesn't have the right to step if Angola has to travel or not, or Ghanaians should travel or not. It's the Ghanaians as a nation that will make life. As a matter of fact, there is no way you can stop people from traveling. The only way you can prohibit people from traveling is making the environment more comfortable for them to even travel. Look at the Europeans now. When they travel, they go out for good businesses. When they travel, they go out to invest. Europeans don't travel to go and settle in some countries and looking for livelihood. No. Europeans go there to invest, Europeans come here to carry properties and go. Most of us travel and go to Europe and don't want to come back. Somebody told me that he will enter America, he will never come back to Africa because he has been watching America on television. That's because the environment is comfortable. Why would blacks go to America and stay 25, 30 years and never come back here? It means the place was more comfortable than where they left. And the only way we can convince our citizens to stay back in our country is to make the country more comfortable for them to stay here.
Yes, but we see in Europe, we've seen at the level of the European Union, methods and policies are put in place to struggle to at least deter persons from coming. We see heavy investment in police, heavy investment in border control, border patrol, and a host of other things. You see a system that is put in place to make sure that persons don't move like they want to.
Is that system we don't have here, Mr. Liu? Except you want us to use the cane to beat Africans from traveling. There is a way you make an environment comfortable. People automatically settle. There is no way you can cause people to stay in a country by force. It's not prestation. It's not some kind of a hard kind of policy we are going to engage. Okay, if you are crossing to Gabon, we flock you. If you are crossing to Kenya, we'll beat you. No, just make the country comfortable. I can tell you that if you go to Rwanda, the rate at which Rwandans travel out of the country is very minimal. Why? They instead travel to go and study more and come back. Japan experienced the Hiroshima attack in 1945. Japanese travel out not to go and stay. They went there to gather technology. When they came back, you hardly see Japanese travel. Have you ever heard about falling bush from America to Africa? It is also a falling bush into America. Is to let you understand that the movement of people from one place to another, number one, they go to look for greener pasture. If the pasture is green, they are going to look for what?
It's like cattle.
It's like cattle. Cattle grazing is movement from one place to another to look for greener pasture. If at all the pasture in the environment is green, what are they coming to do? For instance, have you ever seen people carrying cow from womb to come and feed in Douala? The pastures in Groom are green. So they only bring cow here to sell. We can instead carry cow from here and go to womb because the cow pasture in womb is green. So if Cameroon has a greener pasture, there will be no need for people to be going outside. What we are trying to say, we are not endorsing racism. We are not promoting what the Tunisia project. It is condemnable by every law and act in the international law. But the issue is we are talking to ourselves that we cannot escape this. It has met us. What are the possible ways on how to solve this problem? It's only for us to fight and also make our countries comfortable in such a way that people will not be travel. I remember in 1999, my elder sister came from Gabon and told me that Gabonese don't travel when Omar Bongo was still in power because a teacher was earning at least 1.2 million a month. You are going to do what outside? They eat and drink, and then when they take their salary, they come back to work only after 4 to 5 days. You hardly see Gabonese traveling. But now, Gabonese are always taking bad roads, taking desert and ocean because why? The environment is no longer comfortable. There are countries in Africa that do not travel anyhow. Do you know Botswana passport has access to at least 30 countries in the world, including Germany? That is the power of the Botswana passport. Botswana has an economic system that doesn't even permit them to travel. When life is comfortable in your country, that is where Magufuli was going for. He died. You would have heard that Tanzanians rarely travel because the country would have been comfortable for them to settle. So what we are saying is that this idea of traveling should be either you're going to learn, increase in technology and come back, not to go and look for peanuts to eat. Who is Tunisia that Cameroon will go and be falling and they are beating in Tunisia? How much does Tunisia have?
Okay. Good evening, sir. I really enjoy your program. I think our leaders should make their countries a paradise to avoid the maltreatment we get out there. Jackson writing from Yaoundé. Good evening to you all and the listeners. It's Romanos writing from Mancon. Bamenda, keep up. I love the topic. Thank you. Good evening to you, panelists in the studio. Mr. Jefferson writing from Bonaberry. For me, I think that the African Union is just like the League of Nations of 1920. For me, everything should be fixed back home by creating more jobs for our youth back in the country. Okay, now Apostle Ambe, Valentine, and what also do you make of those leaders who were quick to send jets to get their guys back home, but others have not done so? Is it recklessness, so we are helpless?
You know, every country has its policy, and every country have its financial stability. There are countries going through what they don't even have the capacity to hire the aircraft to go and bring those people back. They're indebted to a level where spending money to go and transfer people from there and bring back is not even part of their budget for the year. So if the few countries that have sent their aircraft to go and carry their citizens, it is out of the president's own personal violation. I think the countries have not yet reacted. Probably in the days ahead they will react, or maybe they will allow their people to die. Or maybe they are talking with the Tunisian president on how to see how we can calm down the situation, and then they can give now other people to leave the country. Because everyone will not approach a singular problem in the same way. Everyone approaches problem based on their capacity and how they can handle it. So we cannot actually interpret the silence of other presidents as negligence or as a sign of recklessness.
Okay. Good evening to you all. Good deliberations. Apostle, is the news about the mocking of God by Brazilians and the wrath of God descended on them true? Masu is writing from Boya. I think that good evening to you in the studio. The actions of Tunisians should be condemned, not blaming our home governments. No government pleases its population in its entirety. The thing is, Africans and Cameroonians in particular consider their home country a dead land. Why not stay here and try to see how we all can join hands with authorities to help this country forward? Terence, writing from Mutengene. But are we not also victims of victims of the fact that we do not believe in what our country actually holds for us? People believe that they can only make it out of either Cameroon or Gabon or other nations.
It's a notion.
Yes.
It's a notion.
Are we not also pushed to finding ourselves in such situations because of this notion? Because the persons who will spend 15, 20, 30 years in Tunisia and will even be ashamed to come back here because of that notion that, okay, I went there and I must succeed.
You know, since we started growing, there's this notion that anyone that has ever traveled out of the country came out with big money. If you see Cameroonians, and so many today in Gabon, because the early Cameroonians that went to Gabon came back with millions. If you see so many Cameroonians today in Angola, it's because the early Cameroonians that went there got millions. And those who traveled to America in those days built houses, drove cars. So as things started going by, everyone's mentality came to a point that everyone that wants to prosper has to travel to Europe or America. It's the result of the early birds that traveled to Europe and America that gave that impression. And the thought spread like wildfire. So wild that it's even difficult to still accept today that there is nothing in Europe or America. Because we have seen Europeans and America, or Cameroonians based in Europe and America, come back here with nothing. If you had one-on-one encounter with them, they are just bluffing and full of so many words in their mouth and they are accomplishing nothing. But now that notion, that's why I say it is difficult to kill an idea than to kill an individual. And the idea of the idea that somebody must get rich in Europe and America has infiltrated even a newborn baby that is still in the womb. Everyone knows that life is far more better in America because they can look at 2-3 persons as an example. But remember, there are 20-30 persons who have gone to those countries equally and came back with nothing. Yes. Oh, I said, the guy came off here 2 years ago. He has built a house and he's driving a car. Then everything is in America. There is also somebody who traveled there and came back there with nothing. We don't use the references of those who have failed. We always use those who have succeeded. And now this thing has entered into the very psyche of humans. So it's difficult sometimes to delete this thing in their subconsciousness. So everybody thinks that bush falling. When you go out, you must succeed. Failing to understand that you can still walk your way out in this country if you think very well. In the land where there are borrowers, there are also lenders. Where did the lender get his money that the borrower is borrowing? The difference is in their mindset.
Okay. Hello, Mr. Leo. Elvis writing there from Bamenda. Mr. Leo, if you and Apostle Ambe can start a movement to inspire young Cameroonians, especially Cameroonians, to participate actively in government, then we will impact the change we want. We and only we can change this environment, okay? Make it better and conducive. Thank you. Good evening to you all. Queen Mother from Kumba. How can they do much of taxes in Cameroon? How can they invest? Okay. Good evening, Frederick from Yaoundé. I wish to ask, do Cameroonians repatriate foreigners? Good evening, Mr. Leo. Apostle Ambe is right. I hope the statesmen are watching. Okay. Good evening. I am Andy Jackson writing from Sanakan. I think the North African countries, Tunisia, needs to first of all understand the value of humanity before knowing how to manage black issues. Good evening, you people on panel. Apostle Ambe, you are right. I am a welder who have been working in Gabon for more than 15 years because Cameroon is a country help his citizens. When there is a job in Cameroon, they will call a company from Gabon to send welders, as well as Indians, Nigerians, and Ghanaians. But it's difficult for other countries to take workers from a country. Ashu Martin is writing from Gabon. Okay, good evening to you, Ashu. Now, Tunisia is wanting to identify more with Arab nations. Same with Morocco, Algeria, and others, and then they also want to identify more with
EU.
No, with the EU.
Yes, European Union.
Why do they hate us?
Mr. Liu,
Yes.
if you have read your Bible, you will know that poverty.
Why do they hate us? They want to either identify with Arab nations or European nations.
Yes, everybody wants to associate with somebody that can bring meaning to their lives.
Okay.
Even in natural life, people want to associate with people who can add value to their lives. What has the black-skinned Africans done in defending their fellow Africans themselves when they are passing through one or two challenges? They have not. So associating with them, they draw nothing from them. They want to associate with people that can protect their interests tomorrow, defend them in times of crisis, provide for them in times of difficulties, stand with them if they are sinking. The Arab world, Saudi Arabia is fine, Iran is fine, Kuwait is fine, Jordan is fine, Oman is fine, Dubai is fine. Those are countries that can sustain them in times of crisis with sophisticated weapons, protect them. With their level of trade in the world and the oil that they possess, they can be also to Qatar, they can defend them. So I think that they are trying to attend. Then secondly, they have a common religion that brings them under the same umbrella, worshiping the same God and having the same prophet. So by that, it brings them to a place of common initiative, a place of common initiative. Now it is easier for them to relate together. Now looking at dark-skinned Africa, what is that country? Which country within the dark-skinned Africa has the capacity and the wherewithal to sustain these guys in terms of crisis, in terms of trade, in terms of stability, in terms of protection? The world is a place where you don't know who will invade you tomorrow. So you must keep company with people that can protect your interests and defend in times of crisis. At least the Arab world cannot be swallowed easily by Europe. It can't be conquered by America. So if these guys are done, then the Arab world, Saudi Arabia say, hey, we are signing a united letter from the Arab world, don't touch Tunisia. America will hold its strength. The same with Europe. Now joining the, what do we have this way? who will fight for them? So that difference is there. And then funny thing is that these guys are not having the same color. Martin Luther made so much emphasis about the color of your skin. The color of your skin, the color of your skin. You see, a French man can fly to America and he's not speaking English, but he has white skin. They would defend him that a black skin America that speaks perfect American English, because the issue is the color of the skin. Somebody can leave Poland that does not speak English nor that French, goes to America. They will appreciate such a person becoming an American citizen than a black skinned man that can speak American English perfectly. That is the reason why we are saying that this color of our skin has a very, very important role to play. There is a possibility for you to land into a country and you're the only black skin in that country. Now, when they look at that black skin, they will know you're a stranger. But if a Polish man lands in a country that is a white skin, they might not know whether it's a Polish or not a Polish. So this color of our skin is implicating us seriously. And you know that racism has been an old age long policy that has been operating in the world since till date.
Okay.
You look right in football when Samuel Kuffour was playing by Munich. Stefan Effenberg never greeted him with his hands. Never. That racist mentality because he has a black skin. Kuffour was one of the best African defenders we have ever had in life. He would defend goals and even score, go to celebrate. FMB will not greet him. That is to say, with all his prowess, the color of his skin is a hindrance in associating with people. This skin color is very, 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 very pivotal in the way they discriminate Africans in other places. As a matter of fact, this is what actually makes you known as an African, the color of your skin.
Good evening, Mr. Liu. Apostle Ambe is right. The early births are the cause of our present predicament. When we are too abroad conscious, we become Cameroon useless. Don't we? Peter is writing from Kumba. Good evening to you, Mr. Peter. Good evening, Mr. Liu and Apostle Ambe in the studio. Well, it is obvious that sub-Saharan African countries have decided to remain as slaves in the entire human race because we have embraced religion and politics, which is a total scam. Lies telling, fake promises, stealing, and many more have destroyed the black race. Before, tradition and culture prevented people from stealing and lies telling because the end result of one is guilty will be dead. Okay, one who is guilty will be dead. Prince Bile writing from Germany. Yes, but now, do they look down on us wanting to associate more with the Arab world and the Europeans?
Yes.
Because we ourselves have not found value in who we are. We fight one another, we look down on one another, we are very ready to betray one another, and then we fail to build ourselves into that empire that
Yes.
will be dreaded by other continents.
Mr. Liu, let Cameroon tomorrow grow to the standard of France. You will see Tunisians fly here. The color of the skin will even disappear. Because why? People rub shoulders. I read a story about Chinese. Chinese don't have respect for Africans because they believe Africans are not developing. That's their anger against Africans. And they don't want to identify with people who do not develop. Chinese can easily fly to Europe and they'll be comfortable. They will speak well about Europe. But when it comes to Africans, they were maltreating Africans not because Africans are black, but because Africans do not match up with the growth in the world stage. I think that this stunted growth in Africa is a very, very strong weapon used by most countries. Nobody wants to identify with somebody that has nothing to add up. That is a raw truth. Now they believe that we embezzle income, we mismanage funds. Do you know that in places like Tunisia, there are places with free hospitals, free education, basic things that countries enjoy, but they come here, we pay school fees. All those things, when they ascertain and look at what we have in terms of resources, Tunisia does not have our resources. But Tunisia, with the little they have, they have been able to upgrade their country to a level where you can admire it. How can a man who is living in abundance die in penury? Such a person come to my country is a locust to eat everything green because he cannot develop what he has in his house. That's the mindset that they have concerning us. We have more resources than them. Yet, with all those resources, we are still running to their place. Something is wrong with us.
Yes, but are we not also telling them? I want us to look at the relationship that exists between fellow black African nations and brothers and sisters. Do we love ourselves?
No.
Do we place value in who we are? Because it is easy for everybody to say, okay, we have to condemn because these guys hate us, these guys are racist against us. How do we treat one another as Africans?
How many good black African presidents have lasted in power? Let's remove Tunisia and Europe out of it. What did they do to Sankara? Go and check the archives of Sankara. Somebody who planted 10 million trees, brought women into parliament and balanced democracy. Somebody in Burkina Faso whose car was Renault 12. He had a bike, a guitar, and a fridge. But with all that, he was able to increase the salary of workers, increase education, increase tree planting, turn Burkina Faso into a place of wheat production, insisted the weather they are kenke, and then caused them to consume what they have. Hunger vanished in Tunisia, in Burkina Faso. That kind of president could not last. It should tell you about the level of bitterness, and who killed him is a fellow black man. Magufuli came up and took Tanzania from took it to a middle income economy. That man did not last in power. After first tenure, they eliminated him. This is to let you understand that we blacks don't love ourselves. We say we are in CEMAC. Under normal circumstances, I have the same passport Gabon has, Central African Republic, Chad, and Malabo. Do you know that I'm supposed to fly to Gabon free? But when I land in Gabon, I'm paying visa fee at the Lumba International Airport. I pay visa fee at the Bangui Airport. I pay visa fee at the Tamjong Airport. I pay visa fee at the Malabo Airport. What is the essence of the CEMAC? That's the level of hatred and bitterness we have amongst us. We say we are in CEMAC, that means we are brothers. Then Equatorial Guinea chases Cameroonian in the same CEMAC zone. That is to say, even at regional level, we are not united. Talk less of continental level. At the regional level, we are not united. We are not. The case of East Africa, East African Community, that's EAC. You can now see when Uhuru Mugai Kenyatta said they have opened their borders, Tanzanians can walk with their ID card into Kenya freely. That's what we call EAC, East African Community. Not the one that will have CEMAC passport with the Gabonese man, the same CEMAC passport, and I'm paying 50,000 for visa fee at the Lumba International Airport before I land in Libreville. Where is the brotherhood? There's no brotherhood in that. So we don't first of all love ourselves, we don't appreciate ourselves, we don't celebrate our own. And that's the reason why outsiders cannot place value on what we have not valued at home. That's the simple truth. Value begins at home.
Okay, value begins at home. Greetings, Mr. Kum, and to Apostle enjoying the nice educative program. Apostle Ambe needs to create a party so that we change and make our country comfortable. Kudos to my brother. Mia Fai John is writing from Banyu. Good evening. Talking those who traveled out of Cameroon and came success. How many of them are still in the success they brought and are still succeeding in the success they brought? Okay. Good evening to you guys. My problem with us blacks is we don't want to fix our own. We just want to what is already set. Most of these European countries were changed by Europeans. They didn't go anywhere to look for greener pastures, but we prefer living our own countries than remain and make our own what we want. Issa Ibrahim writing from Santa. But is this also, yes?
Let me answer him. Europeans left for developing their country. They came here and collected slaves. They collected gold, diamond, bauxite, rubber, cocoa, coffee, developed that place. Now, we don't need to travel to go and settle there to collect dollars and come back. We need to go back there and collect their technology. The purpose is not wrong in traveling. Purpose is why do you travel? And the idea of traveling is not bad at all, but it should have a purpose. Because not only Africans travel, Asians travel. Before Japan became what it is today, Japanese traveled to Europe and America.
The Chinese
They
also
did not travel to go there to settle and work menial jobs to make salary or dollars. They went there to transfer the technology. What is India doing? India also has traveled. India is coming back as a giant in the world. India has transferred the technology back there. Where is China coming from? China traveled. Traveling is not wrong. It's a purpose we travel that is wrong. African is the only continent that Africans travel to go and bring used mattresses, dilapidated fans, half-baked technology, and come back here equally with used vehicles. The country is a dumping ground for the used items in Europe. That should not be the purpose of traveling. Traveling should be more of education. Traveling should be more of inspiration. Traveling should be more of a challenge to go and transfer what is there back to your country. Yeah, Bishop Oyedepo said he stood in Oravez University in America and he said, this thing can happen anywhere if it can happen in America. And he came back and started covering university. That is the reason and the purpose for traveling. Our challenge here is that we travel not to go and bring what is there here. As a matter of fact, beginning from the government level, our government ministers travel, they go and see roads there, and they come back here, they don't put those roads here. They can transfer the tax system from France to here. They can't transfer the street to Élysée to here. They can transfer the policies of taxation to this country. They cannot transfer the streets of Paris to here. Why don't they transfer the technology here and the infrastructure?
Okay. Good evening to you all. Okay, thank you, sir. You're right. Still, Kumba, we need people like you with a lot of wisdom. Okay, good evening to you. It's Mr. Ojong from Ambe. Apostle is to an extent wrong in saying that some people went to America and came back with nothing. That's because they were lazy, or it's witchcraft was was involved. So, yeah, but I'm sure he does not have the statistics. I've had persons who tell me that so many Cameroonians are stranded in Europe. Not everybody is succeeding. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Please make a program to help youth change their mindsets about traveling. Finesse is writing from Yaoundé. I don't know why many persons think that we should talk about mindset change. We do these programs almost every day. Good evening, Mr. Leo. The Tunisian president and a host of others should be blaming African leaders for hijacking the continent and making life very uncomfortable for the youth. Whatsoever they are walking out of their country out of frustration and the quest for a better life. Their future have been kidnapped by egocentric leaders, and these youths do not have any options. Nelson is writing from Yaoundé. Good evening to you, Nelson. Good evening to everyone in the studio. I'm enjoying the program very well, but what I would like to say is that Africans need to first change their mentality to be self-dependent and try to do what will help others. Asandek is writing from Bafusa. Mr. Kum, good evening to you in the studio. I'm Sakwe Edwin writing from Bonaberry. However, our black-colored leaders have to learn from those Arab leaders who are those maltreated by the white-colored. The citizens are not even our leaders, so if black-colored leaders make life good for its citizens, we will be okay. Okay, the message was not so clearly written. Good evening, sir. Congrats to you and Pastor. I love listening to this man of God who is at the same time an academic guru. His place is at Eric. I agree with him. The AU is a disaster to Africa. It's of no use. Ngwanyi Theophilus watching from Chang. Good evening to you, Theophilus. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I'm Pastor Edward from Boya. Please, our government should create a new job by reducing military spending because it's that is based off our frustration. Okay. Messages are not too clear. Good evening. I am Michael Jackson from Sanakang. I think the creation of jobs in the Western world with their currency having a higher financial strength has made many Africans to prefer the Western world than Africa. Now, it's our problem in Africa leadership. Can we transform Africa to look like what we now admire out there?
Yes, Mr. Liu. A few African countries have proven to us that it's possible to transform Africa. Number one is Mauritius.
Mauritius, yes.
Mauritius Island, if you go there, you think it's Europe. It's a country that has almost 0% corruption. It will be amazing it's amazing, let me put it this way, to realize that Mauritius does not have 1/10 of Cameroon's natural resources. Yet they have made the country a heaven on earth. Why? Because corruption is one of the deadliest weapons used by leaders in Africa to frustrate Africans. The amount of money stolen, embezzled by African leaders, even if they say Europeans are exploiting Africa, the Europeans are exploiting Africa, and what they exploit is not even half of what is left in this Africa. The real killers of Africa are the people who are able to sit on 23, 25 billion. Money that can create jobs and employ at least 1 million Cameroonians is sitting in the pocket of one man who dies and does not even see the money. So we have a problem with leadership. Botswana, another country, one of the countries that's the richest in diamond in the world, the best diamonds in the world is Botswana. That singular natural resource that they have in that country is what has caused Botswana to be a country of distinction. There are countries in Africa that do not travel out of Africa. Going to Europe is not a prestige to them because they are very comfortable. Mauritius is a comfortable country. Seychelles is comfortable. Sao Tome and Principe, those are islands, they are comfortable. What do they have? They are on the sea coast, and most of them they do by fishing. And the little resources they have in their country, like oil, they use to develop the country. If you go to Mauritius, if they show you Mauritius through pictures, through videos, you'll be amazed and ask if this is Africa or not. That is because the little resources that enter their hand, they fought the thing that kills. You and I listened to the video of the man that transformed Singapore. He said, what did he say? He said, number one, meritocracy. Number two, I think he spoke about competence. That is, they give you job based on your ability to do it. It has to do with your age, your class,
your PhD.
Yes, no. He said, well, if you have the idea, no matter where you're coming from, as long as you can help the country. But that is not the case. So you discover that Singapore did not grow because they have some resources, but they had the right people. I've said it, I'm saying, repeating it. Any country that has more natural resource than human resource will sink. Because natural resources can only gain relevance when they have the right human resource. So a country is not rich by the natural resource it has, but the human resource it has. And if they are able to exploit the human resource they have in that country, the country will go to higher heights. If you take these particular resources we have in Cameroon and put it in the hands of Mauritians, you'll be amazed at what will happen. So the problem is not the resources, the problem is the human that are managing the resources. Because gold does not talk. Oil does not talk. Diamond does not talk. It is a man that is managing the diamond that determines the value of the diamond. So it is human resource that gives natural resource a voice.
Okay.
So if the natural resource has no voice, then there's no human resource.
Good evening, Mr. Liu and Apostle Ambe. I'm Councillor Rash Ekome, writing from Yaoundé. Our main problem in Africa is bad leadership. It's Africans by nature. We have more than surplus. If all these things are given to us by nature were evenly shared by those in power, I see no reason why any African would go to another African country for greener pastures, nor Europe or America. Why depend on us for, okay, you meant who depend on us for raw materials and other vital natural resources of humanity. Good evening, sirs. If I understand you well, Mr. Liu and Apostle Ambe, you would send your children to study abroad, say in America, then when they graduate, ask them to come back and stay in Cameroon, or better still, would not travel at all. Badwin is writing from Boya. Good evening, Badwin, okay? It's only in Africa that people travel to bring used mattresses and dilapidated fans. I love this one, okay? Good evening to you, Elder Sabina, watching us from Boya. Okay. Apostle, you say we go out and get used mattresses, okay? Good evening, Mr. Leo. Please, my worry is that Cameroonians are being sent away from almost all countries in Africa, but government is quiet about that. Can you imagine a country like Equatorial Guinea that is being fed by Cameroon, sending away Cameroonians, and the government cannot stop sending food to them? Our problem is the type of government we have. They are looking for their personal gains. Good Heart is writing from Bingo. Yes, but the food is sold now. We are selling the food, so we are not feeding them for free. Of course. Good evening, Mr. Leo. I think Apostle Ambe is not only a man of God, but also a true epitome of intelligence. But I pity him here because our leaders have given deaf ears to ideas that can bring development. Sakwa Betran is writing from Yaoundé. Miss Blanche from Boyasi, Cameroonians should stand together first. They are not united at all. Let them come back, and together let's make Cameroon great again. Good evening. Please, I'm pleading for the number of Apostle Ambe. I'm writing from Yaoundé. Okay, write to me after the program. I will send you his number. Yes, but there's somebody who wrote that I should ask Apostle Ambe to advise how Cameroonians can believe that they can succeed in Cameroon.
Mr. Liu, I like this question because one of the things I've been doing, I've been teaching patriotism. Okay. In most conferences, I had a conference recently, GOMAT. I was talking on patriotism. The truth is, there's a difference being a citizen and being a patriotic citizen. Most Cameroonians are citizens. Most of them are not patriotic. Signs of a patriotism, number one, you'll be involved in elections. Out of 26 million people, what number that goes to the poll is 3 million. It tells you that if you want to check patriotism based on those who want to change the country, voters apathy. Yeah, but many persons will tell you that if there's no need voting because voters apathy. I will explain to you. The moment the crowd increases in voting, it is difficult to rig. A simple example occurred in Nigeria now. For the very first time, Nigeria population to vote increased by 11 million. From 83 million, they went to 94 million. Now, the number of voters cards that were received, 87 million voters cards. You know how many ended up voting? 23.6 million. Why? They had to steal 63 million voters cards and hid them, because if all those people voted, it would have been very difficult to rig. Cameroonians, listen to me. I've taught patriotism. I was in a conference with the Minister of Youth and Civic Education the Minister of Small Business Enterprise, Minister of Vocational Training. I told the Minister of Civic Education, I said, if actually we taught our children patriotism in this country, they will never carry guns. And I said they should put patriotism as part of the curriculum in this country. He told me that they will look into that. So if you find tomorrow patriotism as part of your curriculum in this country, it is this man sitting here that challenged the Minister of Civic Education. Why am I saying so? When population increases, if we have 10 million Cameroonians that decide to vote in a year, it will be difficult for elections to be rigged in this country. The smaller the voters, the easier the rigging. These are things I've been teaching. In that conference, I also said that taxes. If Cameroonians who are doing business genuinely pay taxes, we will not suffer the way we are suffering. Most of the money for tax is negotiated behind by individuals. That's the reason why it cannot reach the nation. So it is affecting the income of the country. Patriotism is not just belonging to a country. It's ready to die for the country because they can define you by your country. If they say tomorrow they are defining Kum Leonard as Cameroon, they will be proud. If they are defining Cameroon by Apostle Ambe, they will be proud. If you travel to America and they say, you're coming from where? They say Cameroon, they say Etofis. You come to a level where your identity represents a country. You understand that your mess is not messing you, you are messing green, red, yellow. They will insult a nation because of you. A journalist came in this country during, I think, Chan, slept in a hotel and was bitten by a mosquito. He did not insult the hotel, he insulted Cameroon. There is a level you build your identity that once you make a mistake, it is your nation that is addressed. True patriots will build capacity to the extent that they will not want to they will not want men to insult the nation through them. So this patriotic mentality is something that is far-fetched from our education. It is far-fetched from the heart of citizens. Imagine 26 million Cameroonians, 16 million go to the polls. No matter how they put the machineries on ground, they will not be able. They won't be able to rig it. So that fear that has brought voters apathy, that people don't want to vote because they think if they vote, they will not get anything in return, is an error of monumental proportion. It should be handled now. We will start a movement in this country, and we will start by bringing youth to vote. What has happened in Nigeria has caused a shift. It might not have given Obi presidential office, but it has caused a drastic change in the electoral system in Nigeria. So let's become patriotic. Let's become patriotic and know how to handle issues. That's the beginning of us changing this country. Number two, you don't work for prosperity when you are a patriotic citizen. You work for posterity. Prosperity is what you want to achieve. Posterity is what you want to leave a legacy. Those who study abroad and they are looking for huge salaries there at the expense of their country, do not love their country. The Ghanaian president traveled recently to America and saw a Ghanaian with a standardized school and looked at it in America and said, you have such talent as a Ghanaian, you are here. He transferred the man back to Ghana, made him Minister of Education. The man said he stepped down to the field and checked what they were teaching. He said the children were taught to memorize. They were not taught to create. Our education teaches us to memorize and answer questions. That is not education. He brought another perspective. You'll be amazed to see that in the next 5-6 years, the educational approach in Ghana will change. Because why? Someone who had that skill based in America was brought back here. The best engineers in America, Europe, are coming from Africa. The highest paid neurosurgeon in America is a Nigerian. The best doctors in England and America are Ghanaians and Nigerians. You have Cameroonians in different aspects. So don't tell me that science is a white man's stuff. No! The black scientists are well paid by white to develop Europe. Europe has been built by Africans from the days of slavery till date. Now they are no longer buying us as slaves. They are buying our brain with currencies. Let's come back home. If you leave a legacy here, even if you are not earning the salary you expect, you will leave a generation that will come to develop a better generation for your great-grandchildren. Leaders don't look for prosperity. Leaders look for posterity. You see America and Europe, the men that built it never enjoyed it. They never.
Okay, I'm sure that is a powerful one. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Thank you for this very enriching program, and your guest is just so wonderful. Please, can I get his number? Everybody who wants Apostle's number, you write to me after this. Please, good evening. I'm unbeatable from Atwakom. I want to thank God for his servant Apostle Ambe for the powerful messages he is teaching out. I wish to say it's not bad to import second-hand goods. For me, the type of goods matter. If business persons may decide to import complete farming tools, building tools, tools for furniture, and create distribution outlets all over the national territory to empower graduates from the technical schools, you would not believe what Cameroon will become within the next 5 years. Okay. Good evening. I'm Cody Gakpo, writing from why did Osama bin Laden go to America, studied, gained their technology, but still was killed by the Americans when he started using the technology against them? Yes, but why learn something to go and destroy another person? Yeah. Good evening. I think the biggest problem we have in the black African continent is bad governance, tribalism, and lack of respect for fatherland. Okay, summarizing exactly what you just said, Apostle. Yes. If you vultures and vampires have hijacked the system whereby Africa will stay in stagnation for a very long time, if not forever. Okay, Prince, you're writing from Germany. Amenes from Yaoundé. Good evening, Mr. Liu and Apostle. Ambe, I must say I'm enjoying your program. I see so much intelligence and outpouring of knowledge on your program. I must say African leaders are very corrupt, egocentric in all their policies and ways. No system to employ people who complete from our schools. Cameroonians should use the natural resources they have to make Cameroon comfortable at all levels. We want to thank you, Apostle, for coming, and to you all who took the pains and time to watch this edition of Prime Hour.
Thank you, Mr. Liu. It's always a joy to be here. To those who sent your contributions, we appreciate you. To those who also corrected what we said, we take your correction with a kind heart. God bless you.
Thank you, Eli and Desmond, for producing. Tabitha and Brian for supervision. Stay blessed. Bye-bye.